And I just want to welcome everybody and thank you for joining us tonight for the launch of Tommy Collins's debut collection of poetry, Inside Out. And I'm delighted to see you all here and to have your support, especially in times like these when we can't have any live events as such, face-to-face events. So, and even though we often complain about the increasing dominance of the cyber world in our lives, it's heartening that we can at least communicate with one another using tools like Zoom and Facebook. And tonight I'm proud to say that Inside Out by Tommy Collins is our 115th title published since we began our community publishing program over 10 years ago. So I think that does it, a round of applause somewhere or other. So okay, our primary aim actually when we began publishing was to support local writers and to get their work into print. And I think that we've done that really very successfully. And I'm proud that tonight we are launching a book by a local Limerick man. And I've known Tommy, I think now since the days of the White House Poetry Revival. And since then, he has consistently supported live poetry events in Limerick. And he has brought attention to his own work, of course, learning the craft as well as the art of poetry along the way. And I also have to mention tonight, of course, I couldn't forget her, Lot Bender. She's our longtime book designer, and she's been responsible for creating the professional look for our publications for over 8 years now. So we're going to introduce you to our guest speaker tonight, Kieran Beville. Kieran himself is also a Limerick poet, and he's also a poet that's published by Limerick Writer Centre Revival Press. So he's going to launch Tommy's collection tonight. So I'm just going to hand you over to Kieran now, and he will do the honors. Okay, Kieran?
Yes. Thanks, Dominic, and hello, everybody, and especially to Tommy. And it's a joyous occasion, and I'm delighted to have been asked to be involved in such a happy occasion to launch Tommy's debut collection, Inside Out. I first met Tommy Collins at the On the Nail literary gatherings and readings where he would read at the open mic time. And I believe that participation in such gatherings are a very important part of the process of honing one's skills as a writer. And Dominic Taylor, director of the Limerick Writers Centre, is to be commended for organising and hosting the monthly events. Michael Roberts, the editor of the Faber Book of Modern Verse, he's a poet, and in the introduction to that volume many years ago, he said that poetry is primarily an exploration of the possibilities of language. Now, that is not meant in any way to be a definition of poetry. Poetry would be extremely difficult to define. There's such a diverse range of styles of poetry, but it's a starting point for describing poetry, I think. And every poet has a unique voice. Tommy has a unique voice as well. And just as Tommy the man has a unique acoustic tone, so his poetry too has a unique voice, an oral hallmark, if you like. And I believe poetry should be read aloud. And often when I read volumes of poetry, and I do most mornings for a couple of hours, I read them aloud because it's something that's meant to be heard. And I'm privileged to have been able to hear Tommy read his own poetry, which I've enjoyed very much in the past. And I love this volume. You know, when you go into an art gallery and you see paintings, say portraiture, for example, say you see Louis Le Brocq. Remember those famous portraits of famous Irish writers like Joyce and Yeats? They were like film negatives, but they're immediately it's immediately obvious that these are portraits of those great writers, but it's also immediately obvious that they're Louis Le Brocq's. The same with other artists, visual artists. If you see Lucian Freud, for example, you know immediately that's a Lucian Freud, or to bring it home more locally, a John Shinner's, you can say, that's a Shinner's, that's a Freud, that's a LeBron. And because there's as much of the artist in the portrait as there is of the sitter, if not even more. And I believe that irrespective of the subject matter of poetry, the poet leaves a fingerprint, a kind of hallmark, if you like. And irrespective of the themes and the tones and the techniques, you should be able to come and say, that's a Tommy Collins. And I believe you can. I believe the character comes through. I believe the voice comes through. And I like that voice. And I remember one time Seamus Heaney, in a lecture that he gave to teachers in training, um, spoke of an intermediate cert, that's the precursor, of course, to the junior cert, of an intermediate cert question and essay question that opened with this phrase. It said, the swallow is a migratory bird. And the student was meant to follow them along in the same style, the same idiomatic style of writing. And of course, the student in question that Heaney quoted wrote this: the swallow is a migratory bird, he have a roundy head. And I just love that because it says a lot about the boy who wrote that. It says a lot about identity and culture and experience. And I think Tommy's voice comes through his identity, his culture, his place, a sense of belonging. And I suppose that question in a way shows too that there was an educational system that marginalized people like that boy, that his voice wasn't particularly what was wanted, you know, and he was meant to be shaped into something else. Anyway, we have the singing of Dolores O'Riordan, for example, who sang in her own accent, or Imelda May in Dublin. We're now confident to be able to sing in our own accent. And in Limerick, we're proud of our literary heritage. And Tommy is very much part of that literary heritage. And rightly, he should be proud of his contribution to that. And this book documents that. Anyway, I was given the manuscript prior to publication and asked to read it and asked if I could possibly say some words, and I did, along with other people, comment and on the blurb at the back of the book, and dare I say that Inside Out is the collection of poetry by Tommy Collins. And here we have the beginnings of poetic sensibility, observing, exploring, testing, and developing an authentic and unique voice, which comes to fruition in the poem Help Him. And here we're transported back to the savagery of the schoolyard. I just want to read that poem, if I may. A boy at the center of the tarmac yard stands surrounded by a rolling crowd. Cascades of sound crash down as he's battered and beaten under the shouting. It isn't names or even words this time, but a torrent of primal noise that almost drowns him. And Tommy, I'll just read that first stanza. Tommy goes on to describe the kind of savagery that William Golding did in his novel Lord of the Flies. And we see that civilization is a very thin veneer that's easily stripped away and to expose more primal instincts. And I think that's an excellent point. And it captures a moment that many of us have witnessed or even experienced. in our childhood. And throughout the work, there's a sense of both detachment and participation where the poet is involved in and yet observing from outside. And that is very much part of what it means to be a writer. And he's interpreting, shaping, and making sense of experience. And this process is matured, I think, in another poem called The Goalkeeper, Part 7, where Collins conjures up some potent visual imagery that enables the reader to witness the moments described. And the poet, I believe, is at his strongest when he's recreating those kinds of experiences. Like the poem, Your Kiss, is a good example of a moment recollected with a desire to perfect the craft of poetry in order to do justice to the retelling of that moment. And the dedication to this book shows how Tommy feels connected to family. He himself is a beneficiary of those who have gone before, that they've somehow shaped and molded him. But now I believe in producing this volume of work, he's also become a benefactor, and he leaves a legacy to those who will come after him in his family tree. And I might say as well that Tommy is a teacher, a primary school teacher, and he's also been involved in teaching at secondary level. And I have something in common with him there because I was a secondary school teacher and a lecturer at third level as well. But um, uh, I had the privilege of being taught, or one of my teachers, I could mention many, but one was John Montague, the poet. And John had a stammer. And I don't want to be unkind to John, but I don't think he was a great lecturer. But his poetry was fabulous. And he loved poetry, and that was enough to instill in me a passion and a love for poetry as well. And I believe Tommy is in a unique position as a teacher to influence others. I've been influenced by other teachers besides John Montague, going way back to secondary school and primary school as well, in various ways. If we look at our own history, you could see people like Padraig Pearse, people like Seamus Heaney, the impact that they have had on students, people of their own generation. They were teachers, they were poets, they were practitioners. And Tommy fits in very much into this continuum of being in a position to have a strategic position, to have an influence on people. And I note that Tommy wrote his first poem, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me, Tommy, when you were 14 years old. And you put together a project when you were in transition year as a young teenager, comprising of 12 poems, and that won first prize. And as you've already mentioned, maybe it was in the discussion before we started the Zoom meeting, but some of your poems have already been published in the Stony Thursday book and in the Ogham Stone, the Limerick University's literary journal, and other places as well. And I think you're in a unique position to pass on encouragement, to pass on that baton, and not by even your eloquence or your brilliance, though that may be the case, but by your enthusiasm, by your love and of writing. And I believe this is a lovely volume of poetry, and I'm delighted to be involved in launching it tonight. And um, I note as well something interesting. When I saw the manuscript, Tommy has a poem called "And With That I Could Sleep." And he mentions in that poem, it's a lovely short little poem about rain falling down a window pane. And there's a butterfly, but it's set in December. And I questioned that humbly, just to ask, would that be a moth? Could it be a butterfly? And there's a footnote now with that poem where Tommy explains that is it Tommy a tortoise butterfly?
Small tortoise shell butterfly. Yeah.
Tortoise shell butterfly, and explaining that they hibernate in homes. So it's good to raise questions, and sometimes it's necessary to gloss something, because a little detail like that can be a distraction. You know, it's not a criticism at all, but if it's glossed, if there's some clarification, then the reader can fully engage with you. And thanks for that, Tommy. Who knew? uh, you know, and uh, I believe you'll continue to write, and I hope you will, and I look forward to reading more of your poetry in the future. Well done, and congratulations, Tom. That's all I
Thank
have
you very
to say.
much.
Thank you very much, Kieran. That was a really comprehensive introduction to Tommy's poetry, and Tommy the person as well, I think. So we're going to hear from Tommy now himself, and he's going to read just a few poems from the collection to give you a flavour of it. And remember that if you could spread the word, these are difficult times for publishing books. The only way we can actually, without a launch, it's difficult to sell the books. So we need people to actually buy them online, if at all possible, or else if they're in Limerick, go to a local bookshop to buy it. So please spread the word if you can about that. So I'll hand over to Tommy now with that.
So yeah, thank you, Dominic, and thank you, Kieran, for that fantastic introduction. I was going to do the thanks in between the poems, and I think it might be better just to thank everyone, first of all, for signing in for the Zoom call tonight. It's a strange experience launching a book staring into a camera instead of a live crowd, but it helps to have faces on the screen behind. This is something I've wanted to do since I was 15 or 16, and the early days of going along to the White House poetry readings and you know, getting exposure in the Revival Journal when that used to come out every 3 months was a major factor in encouraging me to keep writing. So major thanks to Dominic and the Limerick Writers Centre for fostering that tradition that started for me in the White House, and obviously builds on the work of other poets who came before me. Thanks to Kieran, to Michael Jurek, to Sandra Yanone, and to Jim Burke as well, who each wrote something beautiful for the back cover of the book. Kieran and Jim in particular offered a lot of feedback and help along the way. And when I first decided I wanted to publish this collection, it was probably early in 2018, and I thought I had it finished, but it was from talking to them and getting their experience that made me realize just how much I still have to learn about poetry, and showed me just little ways of making my own work that little bit stronger. Absolutely have to thank my friend Alan O'Driscoll. I'm not sure if he signed in for this tonight, but he provided the cover image, and it is a fantastic picture of the Shannon Bridge. He's a talented writer in his own right, but he got into photography in the last couple of years, and he was very kind to let me have that image for the cover. And you might have noticed I've had some help with the lighting and the camera work tonight. That's all at the hands of Andrew Galvin of Wendigo Media. So if anybody needs any production or photography around Limerick in the next couple of years, you know where to look. I'm sure I've forgotten someone along the way there, but I've thanked everyone who I could think of in the acknowledgements of the book. So apologies if I've forgotten to mention you in particular tonight. And I think I'll just jump straight into the poems that I picked out. And the first one I'd like to read was in the 8th edition of the Revival Journal, back I think in 2008, maybe 2009. And this is called Escapists' Woods. The soothing scent of conifers and the aroma of cut grass haze slowly by. with dragonflies like winged rainbows or oil stains, and twitters ring from hidden birds in bushes bearing yellow bloom. Beneath rustling leaves, as in a rush, the breeze plays branches like ocean waves. An edge of broken rock protrudes its dirty point from underfoot and prods into a booted heel as clouds erupt from dusty paths, while daisies bend their sunshine heads away from shadows under leaves, and a beetle flutters emerald wings but keeps its stroll along the track. A single drop of water drips to run along its streamy way, from blossomed branch to sweating brow, past a blinking eye and down his cheek, until it rests into his neck amongst his lightly sprouting stubble, and dries above his open collar in setting orange evening heat. He stands with chest half bathed in light, the other half, with right arm bare, shivers a little under shadow, and hairs stand up to catch warm air. Alone in the woods, he flicks a hand to ward a midge swarm from his face, gently steps over moss and mushrooms, between cool boughs and into peace. And I think I wrote that around the time I was getting ready for the leaving cert, just because I needed the escapism, and sometimes it just helps to imagine a peaceful place and imagine yourself in it. So I've always been quite proud of that one. Kieran mentioned that there were several poems inspired by goalkeeping, and obviously with COVID this year, the sports seasons took a bit of a hit, and I've actually been doing a lot more running than football. And I managed to get a poem about running into the Stony Thursday book in 2019. So this is inspired by the Great Limerick Run, and sure, we might as well celebrate what we can with Limerick winning the All-Ireland yesterday as well. It's nice to think of the high points of the city. Although some find it mad what we call fun, the lengths to which we'll go to get our thrill, it's great to get out, greet the world, and run. True, there are softer threads which could be spun, and gentler things to do with time to kill, but it's not madness, no, to call this fun. To persevere under the burning sun, to battle wind and rain, all focus, will, the great passion to face nature and run is strong enough to shirk comforts and shun temptation, gluttony and sloth, to fill moments of freedom with this form of fun. With or without the thunderous starting gun, above or staring up at some great hill, we move outside with this passion to run. No matter where we've come from, lost or won, raw from the heat or bitter with the chill, and though some find it mad what we call fun, it's great to get out, face the world, and run. And the next poem I'd like to read is in Irish. I actually burnt myself out a bit during the summer. I found great inspiration from reading old editions of the Revival Journal. I think I managed to get through the first 18 of them in the space of 2.5 weeks. And I was getting loads of great ideas for new poems, and I spotted the opportunity to enter a competition. So I put together 40 poems in Irish, and the effort of it exhausted me. So I've written very little since. But this one I wrote about 8 or 9 years ago, and managed to get it into the Stony Thursday book in 2013. So I'll read it in Irish first, and then I'll read the translation. The Fóg. Bwallam tú a fóga a ríis, a angel goibh de chuid me bhring lódí. Is tú a haring cuam, onas go bhaith fá suamhnas, gardam chliabhrach mar a hála sé an tain ihe a bháin sin. De ruig mar bhlancéid siada, duracha me gúil an jas. Is de lec na bána có bog chuoi bhara me bhéranna. Is gur bhaithig me hain ag titim midró na naislingi. agus agla orm nach raibh bhí cluithe mo chuir síos ar d'áileacht. Macalaí ag teacht chuam an seanilíocht, agus feann orm tú féin is mise a chur le chéile uormháin eile, lán nó ihe, is an seo I bhocla na siríochta. And to translate that, the title means Your Kiss. I wish to kiss you again, dark angel of my dreams, and hold you close so that you might find peace in my embrace, just as it happened that single solitary night. Your hair like a blanket of silk, dark against my right shoulder, and your white cheek so soft under my fingertips that I could sense myself falling into dreamlike poetry. Afraid that it would never be believed, my description of your beauty, echoes of ancient verses coming to mind, with the desire to put you and me together just once more, day or night, in eternal words. And I think it's only right that I finish with a more recent love poem. And I think Aoife is in the Zoom chat, so this is for Aoife. And it is called Portraits. You tease me, seeking words, something special just for you. But when I think of you, it is in pictures, vivid, and I remember moments of music and drama as if we were actors in classic scenes, timeless, everything momentous and in glorious technicolor, all passion and danger and childlike excitement. You with iconic black dress and flowing red hair, soft painted lips, sipping red wine or garnished gin, purple polish glittering at your fingertips, and suitably, typically elegant in sensuous red lamplight, or pure and bare on crisp hotel sheets, wrapped in clean white towels by a bath of sweet bubblegum pink, or perfumed oils and petals, beaming with joy and clasping soft new burgundy leather, or swooshing along a city street past a swirl of summer flowers, practically aglow in bright yellow, and smiling as if to light up the whole town, or even just one corner of a bar or coffee shop. A paradox of style and substance, waiting to be immortalized in song or film or script, if only an artist could do you justice. So I hope everyone enjoyed that little taste of what's in the book. I think there are 50 pieces altogether, 2 of which are in Irish with translations. And yeah, I hope that anyone who has received it already has enjoyed it. And if not, that hopefully you will find something in it that you do enjoy. And thank you very much again to Dominic for organizing this, and Kieran for his very kind introduction. And of course, to all of you for coming in to listen.
Thank you very much, Tommy. And I'd just like to read a little passage from one of my favorite poets, Jane Hirshfield, the US poet Jane Hirshfield. I really love her take on poetry, what she has to say about poetry, as well as her poetry herself. And what she says is that when someone reads something they've written, we feel an inner connection with them. A relationship develops. We are no longer solitary beings. Our compassion and empathy deepens, making us more fully human. And I know that somehow or other we will act differently as a result. It's as if it becomes more than just a literary exercise, as the inner life of the writer and the audience converge. Now, I love that idea, and that's probably the thing I miss most about the monthly gatherings, how we all sort of communicate together in a community and get to know each other. And I really look forward to going back to that type of thing again after the pandemic is over. So for the most part, I suppose we're going to have to remain apart this Christmas. But what I'd like to wish you all a very happy, peaceful, and a healthy Christmas and a new year. And I look forward to gathering together again, face to face, in the future, in the short future, in the spirit of friendship. So I think that's about it for tonight. Please buy the book if you haven't got it, and spread the word about the book to your friends. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon. And I suppose it's good night.
Happy Christmas to all of you. Bye now. Well done, Tommy. It was wonderful.
Well done,
Thanks.
Tommy.
Well done, Tommy Collins. Great love poems. Well done.
Thanks. Happy Christmas, everyone.
Anybody else want to say anything to Tommy before we end?
Yeah, congratulations, Tommy. Yeah, great book.
Thank you, Michael.
I look forward to it.
Congratulations, Tommy. Beautiful poems. Love those love poems. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Forward to reading the book.
Great. Well done, Tommy.
Okay, if that's it, we'll say good night again. And thank you for turning up tonight. I look forward to seeing you again. Okay. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
Thank you, Dominic. Happy Christmas.
Bye. See you, Marie.
yeah.
See you, Matt.
Right, Dominic. Right.
Okay. Bye.